So if you have a Kia Sedona minivan and your washer fluid reservoir keeps leaking out and you put fluid in it and a couple of days later you get the warning sign saying washer fluid low, or you see that staining there, that is from a puddle that kept occurring under the front of the van. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just water runoff from driving the vehicle in the rain, but it was from the washer fluid reservoir emptying because of a leak, and that washer fluid reservoir is accessed through here. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so you have to forgive the background noise. It's a cold, windy day here in Jacksonville and the heat's going to kick on periodically. But in any case, first thing we're going to need to do is to get this wheel off in order to access the washer fluid reservoir. I have seen it online where people can rotate the tire, turn the wheel all the way out and kind of just about get enough access, but I'm a pretty slim guy and I found it challenging, so the best thing for me was to go ahead and remove that front passenger side wheel. So tools you're going to need, you don't have to have an impact gun, but it sure does make a significant difference. I know they're expensive, but it's a one-time purchase. Recommended to get one of those. Don't have to be a DeWalt, everybody makes them. And then I found these guys on Amazon. So this is a impact lug nut wrench kit, and for this van it's the 21 millimeter. And the way this works is you put the little extension inside, attach it to your impact gun, and you're ready to go. So if you're going to be using an impact gun, you can go ahead and lift the vehicle now. If you're going to be using hand tools, you're going to need to keep the vehicle on the ground while you loosen up the lug nuts. Otherwise, when you put the wrench on, the vehicle, the wheel will just spin if you've already got it lifted. So in any case, I'm going to lift the vehicle now and then we'll get this wheel off. Which leads us to the next situation, which is where to safely jack the van to lift it. And if you look under the side here, you'll see these two notches, and there's notches on both sides of the vehicle and front and rear of the vehicle, and that's where, when you go to a shop, that's where they're going to put their mechanics lift. So that is a good jack point for setting your floor jack. And then if you look up under the vehicle, let me get under here. Looking under the vehicle, you will see this right here, where your front member attaches. This is a good point to put your floor jack stand. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to lift the vehicle at the jacking point out there, and then I'm going to put an axle stand right here. And obviously for this step you're going to need a good quality set of jack stands, axle stands, and a floor jack. I'll put links in the description below for those as well. Also important, when it's a front wheel drive car and you're jacking the front wheels off the ground and it's in park, there is no longer anything stopping the vehicle from rolling backwards. So you can put a parking brake on if you have one and you trust it, but the best thing to do is to go ahead and chock the rear wheels. These ones here are they came with an axle stand set that I bought years ago. They work just fine, but you just want to stop the vehicle from rolling backwards, because it could roll backwards off the axle stands and that would be a bad day. So let's get started. You're only trying to get the wheel off the ground sufficiently just to get it off. We're not trying to jack it up to get under the vehicle to change an exhaust system or whatever, right? And on these big red jack stands, if you put it on, well, you can't see it, but there's holes in this tube. If you put it on, I believe it's the first one, it gives you the right amount of height so that when you lower the vehicle down onto the axle stand, it gives you enough clearance to get the wheel off. So, man, it is cold and windy today. Slowly let the jack down. And there we go. Now we're going to get the wheel off. So what you'll see is, if I take this camera off the tripod, this splash shield has to come out, and there are fasteners all the way around the outside edge. But we really only need to get kind of to a halfway point. You just want enough that you can bend this shield back and tuck it over the rotor, and then you'll have access to the washer tank, which is right here. So let's start doing that. So the easiest way to get these fasteners out is to get a little pocket screwdriver and just pop the center out, and then they just come right out. You'll probably break some. I have a bag of these that I bought just so that when one breaks, it's not the end of the world. And I got those on Amazon. I'll leave those in the link below too. So just proceed to work your way all the way around and take all of these out. There's one here, one there, one up here, one here under the front of the van. There are also 4 more fasteners for the underside, and just get to the point where you can just fold this splash shield out of the way. So let me get to that place and I'll come back. So now with all those removed, this whole panel can come out. And again, all we're going to do is just get to the place where we can pull it out and tuck it back on itself. So let me move my light out of the way. And just like that, it's tucked up out of the way. Now we can get to the washer pump, washer fluid tank. So under the hood, this is obviously the washer reservoir, and you'll notice down here there's a fastener that secures this wiring harness. So you indent the back of that with a pair of pliers and that little fastener will pop out. There's also a retaining bracket molded into the bottle here, and you just pop that hose out. Okay, and then that's all you have to do from this top side. And then there's some fasteners that you can only get to from inside the wheel well, and that's what we're going to do next. So while I believe it is technically possible to replace the pump motor without removing the tank, I'll show you when the tank's on the ground why it's probably better to just go ahead and remove it. In order to do that, there's a fastener down here, 10mm bolt, and then there's another one, I'll get the camera into the right spot, up here, and then you've got to unplug the wire that goes to your low fluid warning, and then there's obviously the plug in the back here. You have to unplug that from the pump, and it's the same thing. You just have a little tab that you push in to release it and then wiggle it, and that all comes out. And then finally there's another fastener right there, and again we're going to squeeze those two tabs in and pop that connector out. So let me do that. And the easiest way to do that is get a pair of long needle nose pliers and come in behind it and squeeze it, and it just comes right out. Also, you have to just pop the hoses out of the retaining moldings in the side of the tank. There's another one back here. You'll notice one is yellow and one is white. I'm not sure which one's which, but they're obviously indicated. One's front, one's rear. If you're doing this from the get-go, because obviously I've now done this, 3 times. The first time to investigate what it was. Second time I tried to just repair the check valve, and then I put the cheap Amazon knockoff one in, and then that leaked, and now here I am putting in the factory one. But if you're going straight to replacing it with an OEM pump, then just put these back on in the same way that they came off, and just make a mental note of which one, the white or the yellow, was going to which side of the pump. So let's pull the tank out and we'll put the new one in. And now with all that done, we can pull out the washer fluid bottle. Just draining the rest of that fluid out. So and that's it, out she comes. Okay, so with the tank out, this is what we're looking at. So to get this motor out, there's a small retaining tab right there that holds that little top piece on. And I found the best way to get this out is to just put a small screwdriver in and just release it, and then the rest of it is just a question of wiggling it out like so. And that's why it's so hard to see where that leak is coming from, because it's covered up by this plastic plate, and if you look up from underneath you can't tell where it's coming from. So this is the little fancy two-way check valve, and as you can see, I put green marker dye in my tank just so I could see where the leak was coming from, and that's where it was coming from. So this is the infamous Kia Sedona washer tank fail point, is it cracks right on this housing, and that's where all the water, all the fluid leaks out. Now I've seen people repair this by using, you know, JB Weld or epoxy or whatever, and you could probably do that and be fine. You can't get this separate from the whole pump and motor assembly. So anyway, that's what was the point of failure, and it's very, very common. So chances are 99 times out of 100, if you have a washer fluid leak, that's going to be your point of failure, and the repair is to replace the pump motor assembly. So let's talk about the replacement part. So this is the Amazon, eBay, Chinese knockoff version. You can get these for like $10, $20, and as I found out, mine leaked right out of the gate. So you basically got a couple of options. You can buy an OEM replacement one for about 50 bucks. I got this $10 one off of eBay, and it's a complete piece of garbage. A small child could pee with more force than what that pump puts out. I mean, it barely dribbled onto the windshield, and the pump ran in the opposite direction, which meant the hoses had to be connected in the opposite direction too. The other issue I had with the knockoff pump is, if you look at the OEM one, you can see there's a silver mesh in there. See if I can get that to focus. Right. And on the Chinese one, the plug is empty, but they do provide this little screen, but it just falls out. So as soon as you put that in the tank, the screen falls out, and then it's rattling around in the bottom of the tank. So absolute garbage. So in my opinion, save yourself the aggravation and just buy the OEM replacement pump. So another brilliant idea that I thought that I had was, what if you buy the cheap knockoff one and just remove the check valve, right, and then you can put this on the OEM pump that's still working fine, except that, I don't know if you can see that, it doesn't line up. So if you had that idea like I did, sorry, that's not going to work either. So that's the old one, and there's a rubber grommet here that slides into, and you obviously want to make sure that you're getting the new one seated in properly, which is why technically you could do this on the vehicle, but I think just for your own peace of mind, it's easier to take the tank out and put the new one in, and then the new one going in is just the reverse. You just push it in till it's seated. And that's it. Make sure it's flush right there and it's properly clipped in. And then right on the top there, there's a little locking tab. And you just get that clipped into that. And that's it. Then we're just going to put it back together again. So when you go to put this tank in, that's where that one 10mm bolt goes and the other 10mm bolt, but there's also right here this little bracket, and that hangs on, see that little Phillips head stud, that little bracket hangs on that. So when you're putting it back in, just make sure you get that tab located over that, and then you can just roll the tank up into place. Pretty easy. Takes a little bit of jiggling, but you get it. Two 10mm bolts. Alright, then you just got to plug everything back. Holds the wiring harness for the two plugs on. So plug these back in. Low fluid warning lamp, and then the plug for the pump itself. That's those back in. Now all we have to do is figure out which one of these is supposed to go where, and then clip the hoses back into their little retaining brackets. But I'm going to go up top now and put everything back together up there. So we got that hose to clip in there, and then that clip back in there. That's everything done up here. So for reference sakes, the line with the yellow goes on the outside and the one with the white goes on the other side, the back side or the inside. So the white activates the front and the yellow goes to the rear. So that's all connected now. I'm just going to route these hoses through the relevant retainers and then put it all back together again. Of course, the final step is to fill the washer fluid up with windshield washer fluid, and what I've been buying and using is this stuff, Crystal Klar. As you can see, that it says made in Germany. And this is a concentrate, and you put 1 ounce will make 1.5 gallons. So this is like $10 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. So $10, and it makes almost 13 gallons of ready-to-use washer fluid. So not only is it inexpensive, but it actually works fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and fill the reservoir up with that and put everything back together. Now you can put the concentrate in the tank and then fill it up with a hose, but I've found that that tends to foam up, so I just pre-mix it. I just keep a pre-mixed jug of this washer fluid sitting on the shelf. The other thing is it smells really good, so if you're ever driving down the road and you hit some obnoxious smell that fills the car with grossness, you just hit the windshield washers and it will make the car smell good again. Then all they do is fill the jug with clean water and you squeeze this, and it fills the measuring cap, and about 3/4 of an ounce and that's it. And then just put that back on the shelf, ready for the next refill. And of course, once you've got the wheel back on, the vehicle back down on the ground, last step will be to torque the wheel nuts. So if you have 17-inch rims, it's 65 foot-pounds, and if you have 18-inch rims, it is 75 foot-pounds. And that's it. All done. So all told, if you go straight to buying an OEM pump, this is probably a 20-minute job, maybe half an hour. Pretty basic. So that would be my recommendation, is if you have a puddle of water, windshield washer fluid under your front passenger side wheel, just go ahead and order the OEM factory pump and jack it up and replace it. So, hope this video helps. Pete Diamond, Jacksonville, Florida. Thanks for watching.